The moment he reached out to save her, she closed her eyes and prepared to die. That was the first thing Lieutenant Orin Vale understood about this planet. Whatever had happened here, humans were not seen as heroes. The sky burned in streaks of red and violet above the shattered remains of his dropship. Smoke twisted into the strange alien air like a wounded serpent. Pieces of metal still glowed from the crash, and the ground beneath him pulsed faintly, as if the planet itself had a heartbeat. Orin pushed himself out of the wreckage, coughing. His left arm burned from a deep cut, but it was not broken. He had survived worse. Humans usually did. He looked around. No friendly signals. No sign of the rest of his squad. Just silence. Then he saw her. She was half buried under a curved section of alien alloy not from his ship. Her skin shimmered pale blue under the strange light. Long silver hair flowed over her shoulders, mixed with ash. Her clothing was torn, revealing faint glowing patterns beneath her skin, like living constellations. She was not human. Orin slowly holstered his plasma pistol and raised both hands. "Hey," he said gently. "I'm not here to hurt you." Her eyes snapped open. They were not just afraid. They were certain. Certain that he was her executioner. Her body tensed violently. She did not try to crawl away. She did not scream. She braced. As if death was expected. Orin froze. That reaction hurt more than his wound. "I'm not your enemy," he said quietly. The wind carried distant mechanical echoes through the valley. Engines. Searching engines. She whispered something in a language he did not understand. Then, slowly, painfully, she spoke in broken Galactic standard. "Human, finish it quickly." Orin blinked. "Finish what?" She looked confused. "My life. That is why you came." And for the first time, Orin felt anger rise, not at her, but at whatever history had taught her this. He stepped closer carefully and began lifting the metal debris off her. "If I wanted you dead," he muttered, straining under the weight, "I wouldn't be bleeding helping you." She stared at him, confused. He managed to free her leg. She winced but did not cry out. "Why?" she asked. "Because," Orin said simply, "that's what humans do." That wasn't entirely true. Humans had made mistakes. Big ones. Galactic wars had scars to prove it. But humans also rebuilt. Learned. Changed. And Orin believed in that part of humanity. The engines in the distance grew louder. She turned her head sharply toward the sound. Fear returned instantly. "They are coming," she whispered. "Who?" "My own people." That surprised him. "You're running from your own kind." She nodded slowly. "I helped humans once." Orin's breath caught. "And that makes you a traitor." "It makes me pray." The engines roared closer now, disturbing the strange trees around them. The forest leaves curled inward, reacting to the vibration. Orin helped her stand. She was taller than him, though thinner, fragile in appearance. But he could see strength beneath that glowing skin. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Kylera." "Well, Kylera," Orin said, picking up his rifle. "Congratulations. You're officially under human protection." She stared at him like he was insane. "You cannot protect me," she said. "You are alone." Orin gave a small smile. Humans are never just one thing. He activated his wrist device. A small holographic map appeared. His dropship had crashed near a canyon network. Tight terrain. Good for defense. Bad for large ships. Good. "Can you walk?" he asked. "Yes." "Good. Then we move." They began descending into the canyon as shadows of sleek alien fighters crossed overhead. Kylera looked up, trembling. "They will scan for you." "Let them," Orin replied calmly. She frowned. "You do not understand. Your species attacked our colonies 2 cycles ago. Entire cities burned." Orin's jaw tightened. "That wasn't my unit." "But it was your kind." He stopped walking. "Yes," he said honestly. It was. Silence filled the canyon. We did terrible things, he continued. And so did yours. That's war. But humans learn. We fight. We adapt. And sometimes, we fix what we broke. She studied him carefully. You are strange. He laughed softly. You have no idea. Above them, scanning beams began sweeping across the canyon entrance. Orin quickly pulled a small metallic sphere from his belt and activated it. It expanded instantly into a distortion field, bending light around them. Kylera gasped. Stealth technology. Prototype, Orin said proudly. Built by a 17-year-old kid on Mars. Her eyes widened slightly. A child. Yeah. Humans are annoying like that. We don't quit. The alien ships hovered, scanning. One fighter descended lower. Too low. Orin whispered, Okay, now it gets interesting. He scanned the canyon walls quickly. Narrow points. Loose rock formations. An idea formed instantly. Humans didn't always win because they were stronger. They won because they improvised. He pulled out a small explosive charge and handed Kylera a detonator. When I say press, he said. She stared at the device like it was poison. You trust me with this? He grinned. You said you helped humans once. That's good enough for me. The fighter drifted closer, engines shaking the rock. Now, Orin whispered. She pressed the detonator. The explosion wasn't massive, but it didn't need to be. The canyon walls cracked. A cascade of rock collapsed directly onto the fighter, smashing it into the ground in a burst of flame. The remaining ships pulled back instantly. Kylera stared at the smoke rising from the crushed machine. You planned that in seconds. Orin shrugged. We call it panic thinking. She almost smiled. Above them, the other fighters retreated to regroup. They had bought time. But not safety. Kylera looked at him again, and this time, she was not bracing for death. She was calculating. Why save me? She asked quietly. Orin looked at the burning wreckage above. Because someone has to prove we're better than our worst mistakes. In the distance, something far larger than a fighter began descending through the clouds. Not a scout. A warship. And Kylera whispered words that made Orin's blood run cold. That ship does not come to capture. He checked his rifle charge and gave her a steady look. Good, he said calmly. Neither do I. The warship came down like a falling city. Its belly lit up the canyon with cold white beams, and the air vibrated so hard Orin's teeth buzzed. Kylera grabbed his sleeve, pulling him into a shadowed gap between rock pillars. Her fingers were ice cold. They will burn the canyon, she warned. They do not negotiate with traitors. Orin didn't answer. He was watching the ship. It was not just big. It was arrogant. A vessel built by a species that believed fear was a weapon, and that fear always worked. The ship hovered, silent for a long second, then released 3 heavy dropships. They fell like iron seeds toward the canyon mouth. Orin glanced at his wrist screen. No friendly signals. His comm unit was still jammed. Whatever field this planet produced, it was choking his electronics like a fist. He had 1 rifle, 1 stealth sphere, 2 charges, and a half-broken survival kit. And an alien woman who used to believe humans were executioners. Well, Orin thought, we're about to show her something else. Kylera, he said quietly, do your people track heat or motion? Both, she replied. And they smell chemicals. Blood. Fuel. Orin wiped his bleeding arm on his sleeve. Great, he muttered. We're basically a glowing dinner. The first dropship touched down. Its ramps opened, and soldiers marched out, tall, narrow bodies in silver armor with segmented helmets. Their movements were smooth and perfect. Too perfect. Like machines pretending to be alive. Kylera stiffened. Her pupils narrowed. You recognize them? Orin asked. They are Vaith Wardens, she whispered. They do not fail. If they find us, they will make an example. Orin watched them spread into the canyon. Then we don't let them find us, he said. We let them chase a ghost. Kylera looked at him. You are still thinking like a hunter. Orin smirked. No. I'm thinking like a human with no plan and too much hope. He pulled out his survival kit and ripped it open. Inside were basic tools, thermal tape, a compact battery cell, 2 emergency flares, a water purifier, and a little coil of conductive wire. Kylera stared. That is your weapon. This. Orin said. No. This is my toolbox. He climbed a boulder and scanned ahead. The canyon narrowed into a series of bends. Rock formations rose high like broken teeth. At the end, he spotted something strange. Thick vines growing in a spiral around a stone column, pulsing faintly with light. The ground under it shimmered. A natural energy node. He'd seen something like it once in a research report. Some planets had organic mineral structures that carried electricity like nerves. Orin's mind clicked fast. Kylera, he said, pointing, those vines. Are they alive? Yes, she said cautiously. They react to sound and force. Why? Orin's eyes shone with a dangerous kind of excitement. Because your warship is hovering above a giant battery. She blinked. That is impossible. Everything is impossible until humans break it. The wardens moved closer. Their scanners swept the canyon walls. A faint humming beam traced rocks like a slow knife. Orin tossed Kylera the stealth sphere. Hold this, he said. When I tell you, activate it and run to those vines. Her jaw tightened. And you. I'll give them a reason to look the wrong way. Before she could argue, Orin took one emergency flare and snapped it alive. Red fire hissed. Kylera's eyes widened. Are you insane? Sometimes, Orin admitted, then hurled the flare high and far, toward a side tunnel. The flare bounced off rocks and rolled, spitting bright light and smoke. Immediately, 2 wardens turned and sprinted toward it. Their helmets glowed as they scanned the flare, confused. Orin whispered to Kylera, now. She activated the sphere. The air shimmered around her as the distortion field wrapped her like a bubble. She sprinted low and fast toward the vines, nearly invisible except for a faint ripple. Orin stayed behind. He breathed slowly, forcing his heartbeat to calm. Then he did the dumbest thing a soldier could do. He stood up. He waved. Hey! He shouted in Galactic Standard. Over here. 3 wardens snapped their heads toward him like predators. Their rifles lifted. Kylera froze mid-run, looking back with horror. Orin didn't run. He sprinted, straight toward them. The wardens hesitated. Humans didn't do that. That hesitation was all Orin needed. At the last second, he dove behind a jagged rock slab. A blast of blue energy tore through the air where his head had been, exploding the stone into dust. Orin rolled, grabbed a chunk of rock, and threw it high into the air. Another warden fired, tracking the motion. Orin whispered, "Thank you." Their scanners were motion-locked. They were advanced, but they were still predictable. Orin crawled along the canyon edge, sliding behind cover, forcing them to chase the wrong signal. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to buy seconds. Because seconds were what humans used to turn scraps into miracles. Kylera reached the vines and pressed her palm against them. The living strands twitched, reacting to her touch. She looked down and realized the entire stone column was humming with stored energy. Orin had been right. She looked up at the hovering warship. Her people had landed on a planet they didn't fully understand. And that was the first mistake aliens always made with humans. Kylera looked at the detonator Orin had given her earlier. Then she looked at the conductive wire. She understood. Humans built traps not from power, but from creativity. Orin slid into view behind a rock near her, panting hard. "Still alive," he wheezed. Kylera stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. "You risked yourself to move them." "Yeah," Orin said, wiping blood from his lip. "Don't make it weird." The wardens were closing in. Their boots clanged against stone. Their scanning beams now swept closer. Orin pointed at the vines. Can you make them react? Like a surge? Kylera hesitated. I can try. But if I do, it might discharge violently. Orin grinned. Perfect. He quickly wrapped the conductive wire around the pulsing vine core, then connected it to the compact battery cell. Kylera watched, tense. This is crude. Crude works, Orin said. It's our specialty. A warden's helmet appeared around the canyon bend. It spotted Orin instantly. Its rifle rose. Kylera whispered, Orin. Orin shoved the battery cell into Kylera's hands. Press it into the vines, he ordered. Now. Kylera slammed the cell against the living core. The vines reacted like a struck nerve. Light exploded outward. A shockwave rippled through the canyon floor. The wardens staggered, their armor flickering. Their scanners malfunctioned. Their helmets flashed with error signals. Above, the warship's lights stuttered. Its hovering field wobbled. A deep groan echoed from the sky. Kylera's breath caught. What did we do? She whispered. Orin's grin widened, almost manic. We just introduced your warship to human engineering. The ship tried to stabilize. But the planet's energy node surged again, wild, unfiltered. The warship's underside lit up with sparks. Then, with a sound like a mountain cracking, its hovering system failed. The enormous vessel dropped, slow at first, then faster, tilting. Kylera's eyes widened in terror. It will crush us. Orin grabbed her wrist. No, he said. It will miss. How can you know? Orin pointed toward the canyon's slope. It's heavy. It's falling. It will follow gravity and terrain. He dragged Kylera toward a side tunnel. Behind them, the warship slammed into the canyon ridge like a meteor. Stone exploded. A thunderclap shook the world. The air filled with dust and burning metal. Kylera covered her mouth, stunned. Her people's greatest weapon, reduced to wreckage, by a flare, a wire, and a human who refused to give up. Orin coughed, then laughed through the dust. Kylera stared at him, shaken. You destroyed a warship with scraps. Orin wiped dirt from his face. No, he said, voice steady now. The planet destroyed it. We just asked nicely. Kylera's expression changed. Something inside her cracked open, something old, something bitter. You are not executioners, she whispered. Orin looked at her seriously. Some humans were, he said. But that's not what we choose to be now. The canyon trembled again. Not from the crash. From something deeper. A low, rhythmic pulse from beneath the ground. Kylera's eyes sharpened, fear returning. That sound, she whispered. That is not the ship. Orin felt it too, the heartbeat under their feet. And then a voice echoed through the dust, metallic and calm, coming from every direction at once. Unauthorized species detected. Orin froze. Kylera whispered, this planet has a guardian. The voice continued, cold and ancient. Defense protocol active. Orin tightened his grip on his rifle. He looked at Kylera. Well, he said grimly, good news is we're not being hunted by your people anymore. Kylera swallowed. And the bad news? Orin stared into the dark tunnel ahead, where faint red lights began to glow like waking eyes. The planet just declared war on both of us. The ground split open. Not with fire. Not with lava. But with precision. Massive metallic pillars rose from beneath the canyon floor, unfolding like mechanical bones. Red light pulsed between them in sharp lines, forming a grid that stretched across the shattered battlefield. The crashed warship smoldered behind them, now forgotten. The planet had awakened. Orin pulled Kylera behind a slab of fallen rock as a beam of crimson light sliced across the canyon wall. Where it touched stone, the rock dissolved into fine dust. That's not natural, Orin muttered. Kylera's voice trembled. This world was once a research outpost. Before the wars. Before the betrayals. It was said to house ancient defense systems. Orin looked at her sharply. You knew. It was a legend, she whispered. A warning to stay away. Another pillar rotated. Mechanical shapes unfolded from its sides, sleek drones with glowing cores. They hovered silently, scanning. The cold voice returned, echoing across the canyon. Conflict detected. Extermination protocol initiated. Orin exhaled slowly. Okay, he said. So the planet thinks we're the problem. We are, Kylera said quietly. Our war followed us here. One of the drones locked onto them. Its core flashed bright. Orin shoved Kylera aside just as a blast struck the rock, vaporizing half of it. Shards rained around them. He fired back, but his plasma rounds barely scratched the drone's armor. That's not fair, he muttered. The drones began advancing in perfect formation. Kylera looked at him, fear and something else mixing in her expression. Your creativity destroyed my people's warship, she said. Can it destroy a planet? Orin shook his head. No. But maybe it can talk to one. She stared at him. What? Orin's mind raced. The system had activated after detecting conflict. It had scanned weapons fire, energy discharge, war signals. It was not evil. It was following instructions. Defense protocol, Orin whispered. It's not attacking us because we're human or Vaith. It's attacking because it detected war behavior. Kylera's eyes widened slowly. You believe it can be reasoned with? I believe, Orin said firmly, that anything built can be understood. A drone lunged forward. Orin grabbed the last explosive charge and hurled it under the drone mid-air. The blast shattered it into sparks. Two more advanced instantly. Orin grabbed Kylera's hand. Run toward the central pillar, he shouted. Are you insane? Very likely. They sprinted through dust and falling debris as beams cut the ground behind them. Orin slid under a collapsing metal strut and reached the base of the largest pillar. It hummed with power. Up close, he could see panels, interfaces, symbols etched into the metal. This isn't just a weapon, he breathed. It's a control hub. Kylera placed her glowing hand against the surface. The symbols reacted faintly to her touch. It recognizes organic patterns, she said. Bio-linked technology. Orin holstered his rifle and pressed his bleeding palm beside hers. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the panel flared bright blue. The drones paused mid-air. The voice shifted slightly. Multiple species input detected. Orin swallowed. Yeah, he said loudly. That's kind of the point. Kylera stared at him. It does not understand speech. Maybe not words, Orin replied. But it understands patterns. He quickly pulled out his wrist device, cracked and barely functional. He ripped the casing open and exposed the signal emitter. What are you doing? Kylera asked. Humans have a bad habit, he said, working fast. We override things. He connected the exposed emitter to the pillar's panel using the last piece of conductive wire. Sparks jumped. The drones began recharging, preparing to fire again. Hurry, Kylera whispered. Orin winced as electricity surged through his injured hand. He forced himself to stay steady. Defense protocol, he muttered. Triggered by aggression patterns. He turned to Kylera. Can you emit your species' non-combat frequency? Something peaceful. She understood immediately. Yes, she said, closing her eyes. Her skin began glowing softly, the constellation patterns under her surface shifting in rhythm. A low harmonic tone vibrated from her body, not loud, but steady. Orin activated his damaged emitter. Instead of a combat frequency, he forced it to broadcast an emergency rescue signal, the universal human code for medical evacuation and ceasefire. Two very different species. Two very different signals. But neither meant war. The pillar absorbed both patterns. The drones froze mid-charge. The red grid flickered. The voice echoed again, but this time slower. Conflict pattern. Inconsistent. Orin held his breath. Cooperation signal detected. Kylira's harmonic tone grew stronger. Orin's emitter sparked violently, nearly shorting out. Analyzing. One drone dropped from the air, powering down. Then another. The red glow across the canyon dimmed. Defense protocol. Suspended. Silence fell. Real silence. The pillars slowly lowered back into the ground like sleeping giants. Dust drifted in the air. Orin collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. Kylira stared at the empty sky where warships and drones had filled the air moments ago. "You did not destroy it," she whispered. "No," Orin said weakly. "We taught it something." She looked at him with new understanding. "You showed it cooperation." Orin managed a tired smile. "Humans are good at that too. We just forget sometimes." The canyon was quiet now. The warship wreckage smoldered harmlessly in the distance. No drones. No scanning beams. Kylira knelt beside him. "My people believed humans only brought death," she said softly. "That every encounter would end in fire." Orin shrugged lightly. "We're very good at fire," he admitted. "But we're better at building after." She studied him carefully. "You could have left me." "Yeah," he said. "But then I'd just be proving the old stories right." A faint signal beeped from his damaged wrist device. He blinked. Through the interference, a human frequency broke through. Rescue ships. His people had finally tracked the crash. Kylira stiffened. "If they come," she said carefully, "my people will see it as invasion." Orin looked at her. "Then don't hide." She frowned. "What?" "Come with me," he said simply. "Not as a prisoner. Not as prey. As proof." "Proof of what?" He smiled. "That humans aren't what your history says." She looked at the destroyed warship of her own people, then at the silent ground where the planet's guardian had stood down. For the first time, there was no fear in her eyes. Only choice. "I will go," she said. Above them, small human rescue craft began descending through the clearing dust. Orin helped her stand. As the ships approached, Kylira asked one final question. "Why are humans like this?" Orin thought for a moment. Then he answered honestly. "Because we know what it's like to almost destroy ourselves." The rescue ship landed nearby. Human soldiers stepped out, weapons ready, then froze when they saw Kylira standing beside him. Orin raised his hand calmly. "She's with me," he said. The soldiers hesitated. Kylira braced slightly, but this time not for death. For change. And in that quiet canyon, on a planet that had nearly erased them both, something far more powerful than a warship had just been built. Trust. And in the vast universe watching from the dark between stars, one simple truth echoed louder than any weapon ever could. Humanity was not perfect. But when it chose to be better, it was unstoppable. The end.